I'm Lily, 28F, and I never thought I'd be sharing my story on Reddit, but here I am. It's been a whirlwind few months, and I need to get this off my chest. 5 years ago, I married my college sweetheart, Kevin, 30M. We were young and in love, and I thought we had it all figured out. I was working as a junior editor at a publishing house, and Kevin had just landed his dream job as a software engineer at a tech startup. We bought a small apartment in the city and started building our life together. But as the years went by, things started to change. Kevin became more and more consumed by his work, often staying late at the office and bringing his laptop to bed. I tried to be understanding, knowing how important his career was to him, but I couldn't help feeling neglected. Our conversations became shorter, our date nights less frequent, and the spark that once burned so brightly between us began to fade. I threw myself into my work, hoping to find fulfillment there. I worked hard and eventually got promoted to senior editor. But even as my career flourished, my marriage continued to crumble. Kevin and I grew apart, living more like roommates than partners. We tried couples counseling, but it felt like we were just going through the motions. Last year, on our 4th wedding anniversary, I finally gathered the courage to have an honest conversation with Kevin. We both admitted that we had grown into different people, with different goals and dreams. The decision to divorce was mutual and amicable, but it still broke my heart. After the divorce was finalized, I decided I needed a fresh start. I quit my job and moved back to my hometown, a small coastal city where I grew up. I used my savings to start my own freelance editing business, working from home and enjoying the slower pace of life. That's where my story takes an unexpected turn. Last month, I attended my high school best friend's wedding. As I was sipping champagne at the reception, I spotted a familiar face across the room. It was Thomas, 29M, my childhood best friend and next-door neighbor. Thomas and I had been inseparable growing up. We spent countless summers building sandcastles on the beach, riding our bikes through the neighborhood, and staying up late watching scary movies, which always ended with me hiding behind a pillow. He was the one person who truly understood me, who could make me laugh even on my worst days. But life had taken us in different directions. Thomas got a scholarship to an art school on the other side of the country, while I stayed local for college. We promised to keep in touch, but as often happens, our communication dwindled to occasional likes on social media posts. Seeing him at the wedding was like a blast from the past. Thomas had grown into a handsome man, with the same mischievous glint in his eye that I remembered from our childhood. He was now a successful freelance photographer, traveling the world for assignments and living what seemed like an exciting, nomadic life. We spent the entire reception catching up, laughing about old memories and sharing stories about our lives. Thomas told me about his adventures photographing wildlife in Africa and capturing breathtaking landscapes in New Zealand. I shared my journey of becoming an editor and the ups and downs of my marriage and divorce. As the night went on, I felt a familiar warmth in my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. It was like no time had passed at all, like we were those two kids again, sharing secrets and dreams under the stars. Before we parted ways that night, Thomas asked if I'd like to meet up for coffee sometime. I agreed, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Over the past few weeks, we've been meeting regularly, exploring our old haunts and rediscovering our hometown together. The more time I spend with Thomas, the more I realize how much I've missed having him in my life. He makes me feel alive again, reminding me of the carefree, adventurous girl I used to be. But I'm also terrified. My divorce is still fresh, and the thought of opening my heart again is daunting. Thomas hasn't made any moves or suggested that he sees me as anything more than a friend. But sometimes, I catch him looking at me in a way that makes my heart skip a beat. And I can't deny that I've started to see him differently too. I'm confused and conflicted. Part of me wants to take a chance and see where this could go. But another part is scared of ruining our friendship or getting hurt again. I don't know if I'm ready for another relationship, especially with someone who seems to have such a free-spirited lifestyle. Am I crazy for even considering this? Should I just focus on healing and rebuilding my life? Or should I take a leap of faith and see where things go with Thomas? I could really use some advice. Reddit. Update 1. Thank you all for your kind words and advice on my last post. A lot has happened since then, and I wanted to give you an update. After much soul-searching and encouragement from friends, and many of you, I decided to be honest with Thomas about my feelings. We met at our favorite spot on the beach, the same place where we used to build sandcastles as kids. As we walked along the shore, I gathered my courage and told him everything, how being around him made me feel, my fears about getting hurt again, and my confusion about what to do next. To my surprise, Thomas admitted that he had been feeling the same way. He confessed that seeing me at the wedding had stirred up emotions he thought he'd long buried. We talked for hours, sharing our fears and hopes. Thomas told me about his own struggles with commitment, how his nomadic lifestyle had been partly a way to avoid getting too close to anyone. We decided to take things slow, to explore our feelings without putting any pressure on ourselves. Over the next few weeks, our relationship deepened. We went on proper dates, rediscovering our hometown through new eyes. Thomas took me to hidden spots he'd found perfect for photography, and I showed him my favorite quiet corners for reading and writing. One evening, as we were having a picnic in the park, Thomas surprised me with a photo album. It was filled with pictures he'd taken of us and our adventures over the past month, interspersed with old photos from our childhood that he'd gotten from his parents. The last page had a recent photo of us laughing together, with a note that said, "To new beginnings and rekindled friendships. Whatever happens, I'm glad you're back in my life." That gesture meant the world to me. It showed that Thomas understood the importance of our history and was equally invested in our present and future. We shared our first kiss that evening, and it felt like coming home. However, our blossoming relationship hasn't been without its challenges. Thomas received an offer for a 3-month photography assignment in Southeast Asia, an opportunity too good to pass up. The thought of him leaving so soon after we'd reconnected filled me with anxiety. All my old fears of abandonment and trust issues from my failed marriage came rushing back. We had a long, difficult conversation about it. Thomas assured me that he wanted to make this work, that he wasn't running away. We agreed to stay in touch through video calls and messages. He even suggested I could visit him for a week or two if my work allowed it. The day before Thomas left, we had a heart-to-heart. I opened up about my insecurities, how Kevin's emotional distance during our marriage had left me feeling unworthy of love. Thomas listened patiently, then shared his own fears of settling down, stemming from his parents' tumultuous relationship. We made a pact to communicate openly, to voice our fears instead of letting them fester. Thomas promised to check in regularly and to include me in his journey as much as possible. I, in turn, promised to work on my trust issues and not let my past experiences cloud our present. It's been 2 weeks since Thomas left. True to his word, he's been sending me beautiful photos and funny stories about his adventures. We video chat every few days, and even though I miss him terribly, seeing his face and hearing his voice helps ease the loneliness. I'm trying to use this time apart to focus on myself. I've joined a local writing group and have been working on a novel I've always wanted to write. I'm also reconnecting with old friends and making new ones through community events. Despite the distance, I feel more secure in our relationship than I thought possible. Thomas's openness and consistency have been healing for me. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't counting down the days until his return. I'm nervous about what the future holds for us. Will the long distance strain our newfound connection? Will Thomas's adventurous spirit clash with my desire for stability? Only time will tell. For now, I'm trying to stay positive and enjoy this new chapter in my life. Thank you all for your support. I'll keep you updated on how things unfold. Update 2, hello again, Reddit. It's been a while since my last update, and a lot has changed. I'm writing this with mixed emotions, but I felt I owe you all an update after the support you've shown me. Thomas returned from his Southeast Asia assignment about 2 months ago. Our reunion was joyful and intense. The time apart had only strengthened our feelings for each other, and we fell into a comfortable rhythm almost immediately. Thomas moved in with me temporarily while he sorted out his living situation, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. However, as the weeks went by, cracks began to show in our relationship. Thomas struggled to adjust to the slower pace of life in our hometown after his exciting adventures abroad. He'd often get restless, talking about all the places he still wanted to explore and photograph. While I enjoyed hearing about his dreams, I couldn't shake the feeling that our life together wasn't enough for him. On my part, I found myself falling back into old patterns. I started worrying every time Thomas was late coming home or when he'd spend hours editing photos instead of spending time with me. My insecurities from my previous marriage resurfaced, and I struggled to communicate these feelings to Thomas without sounding needy or controlling. Things came to a head when Thomas received an offer for a year-long assignment documenting indigenous cultures in South America. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, something he'd dreamed of doing for years. I could see the excitement in his eyes when he told me about it, but all I felt was dread. We had a long, painful conversation that night. Thomas said he wanted to take the assignment but also wanted to make our relationship work. He suggested I could come with him, work on my novel while he photographed, and we could embark on this adventure together. For a moment, I was tempted. The idea of traveling the world with Thomas, supporting each other's dreams, sounded beautiful. But as I thought about it more, I realized it wasn't what I truly wanted. I'd worked hard to establish my freelance editing business here, and I just started to feel settled after the turbulence of my divorce. The thought of uprooting my life again, of living out of a suitcase for a year, filled me with anxiety. We spent days discussing, arguing, and trying to find a compromise. But in the end, we realized that our paths were diverging. Thomas needed the freedom to chase his dreams across the globe, while I craved stability and roots. We both knew that asking the other to give up their needs would only lead to resentment down the line. With heavy hearts, we decided to end our romantic relationship. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, but we both knew it was the right one. We promised to remain friends, to cherish the memories we'd made, and to support each other from afar. Thomas moved out last week. Watching him pack up his things, I was reminded of the day I left my marital home after my divorce. But this time, the pain was different. There was sadness, yes, but also a sense of peace knowing we'd made the right choice for both of us. The day Thomas left for South America, I drove him to the airport. As we said our goodbyes, he handed me a small package. Inside was a framed photo of us as kids, building a sandcastle on the beach. On the back, he'd written, "Some people are meant to be in our lives forever, others for just a season. Thank you for being both my childhood friend and my adult love. Your friendship will always be my home, no matter where I am in the world." I cried all the way home from the airport, but they were tears of both sadness and gratitude. Reconnecting with Thomas had healed parts of me I didn't even know were broken. Our relationship, brief as it was, taught me that I was capable of loving and being loved again after my divorce. Now, I'm focusing on moving forward. I've thrown myself into my work and my novel. I've also started volunteering at a local animal shelter, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for. It's helping me deal with the loneliness and giving me a sense of purpose. Thomas and I still keep in touch. He sends me beautiful photos from his travels, and I update him on life back home. Our conversations are friendly and warm, tinged with nostalgia but free from regret. This experience has taught me a lot about love, timing, and the importance of being true to yourself. While it didn't work out the way I had hoped, I don't regret a single moment of it. Thomas helped me rediscover parts of myself I thought I'd lost, and for that, I'll always be grateful. Thank you all for being on this journey with me. Your support and advice have meant more than you know. Here's to new beginnings, wherever they may lead us. Update 3. Hello Reddit. It's been almost a year since my last update, and I felt it was time to share where life has taken me. After Thomas left for South America, I threw myself into my work and personal growth. I finished the first draft of my novel, expanded my editing business, and even started teaching a creative writing class at the local community center. The pain of our breakup gradually subsided, replaced by a sense of pride in my own resilience and growth. About 6 months ago, I received an unexpected email from Kevin, my ex-husband. He was in town for a tech conference and asked if we could meet for coffee. My initial reaction was hesitation, but curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed. Seeing Kevin again was surreal. He looked older, more tired, but there was a calmness about him that I didn't remember from our marriage. We spent hours talking, catching up on each other's lives. He shared that he'd been through therapy, realizing how his workaholic tendencies had affected our relationship. He apologized for the pain he'd caused and thanked me for the good years we'd shared. I was surprised by how healing that conversation was. I realized I had forgiven Kevin long ago, and talking to him helped me close that chapter of my life completely. We parted as friends, wishing each other well. A few weeks after meeting Kevin, I received news that my novel had been accepted by a publishing house. It was a small, independent publisher, but they loved my story and wanted to work with me. The day I signed the contract was one of the happiest of my life. As for Thomas, we've maintained our friendship. He's still traveling, capturing breathtaking images and sharing incredible stories. He recently told me he's met someone, a fellow photographer who shares his passion for adventure. I was surprised by how genuinely happy I felt for him. In my own life, I've started dating again, taking it slow and being upfront about my needs and desires. I met a kind, thoughtful man named Daniel, 31M, at a local book club. He's a high school English teacher with a love for literature that matches my own. We've been seeing each other for a couple of months now, and while it's still early days, I'm cautiously optimistic. Daniel understands my need for independence and supports my writing career. We're taking things one day at a time, building a relationship based on mutual respect, open communication, and shared interests. It's different from the intense, whirlwind romance I had with Thomas, but it feels steady and real in a way that brings me comfort. Looking back on the past year and a half, I'm amazed at how much I've grown. The pain of my divorce and the bittersweet ending with Thomas have shaped me into a stronger, more self-aware person. I've learned that it's okay to want different things, that love isn't always enough if your fundamental needs and life goals don't align. I've also learned the value of self-love and independence. I'm no longer seeking someone to complete me or fix me. Instead, I'm looking for a partner who complements my life and supports my dreams, just as I would do for them. My novel is set to be published next spring. It's a story about love, loss, and finding oneself, themes that have been central to my own journey. Writing it has been incredibly cathartic, helping me process my experiences and emotions. As I sit here, typing this update, I feel a sense of peace I haven't experienced in years. My life may not have turned out the way I once imagined it would, but I'm grateful for every twist and turn that has led me to where I am today. Thank you, Reddit, for being a part of this journey. Your support, advice, and kind words have been a source of comfort and strength through some of my darkest times. Here's to embracing life's uncertainties and finding joy in the journey, wherever it may lead. To those of you out there who might be going through similar struggles, whether it's a divorce, a breakup, or just feeling lost, I want you to know that it does get better. It may not happen overnight, and the path forward might not be clear at first, but keep moving forward. Focus on yourself, pursue your passions, and don't be afraid to open your heart again when the time feels right. Life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it. 2 years ago, I never would have imagined I'd be where I am today, with a novel about to be published, a thriving editing business, and a new relationship that feels right. But here I am, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. Thank you all once again for your unwavering support throughout this journey. Your kindness and wisdom have meant more to me than you'll ever know. Here's to new beginnings, second chances, and the beautiful unpredictability of life.